of the Comox Valley Air Force Museum Association. Our mission as an association is to support the Comox Air Force Museum both financially and with volunteers. All members of the association are active volunteers within the museum and some of the functions that it strives to do. With regards to the Spitfire, there's been a lot of controversy recently about the transfer of title. From a personal perspective, it's a win-win situation. This aircraft will actually fly at some point in time, which we might not have ever seen had it stayed in its original planned construction. Majority of the volunteers support the transfer of title to Vintage Wings of Canada and are looking forward to the ultimate completion of the aircraft and being able to see the aircraft fly in Comox in a couple of years' time.
Hi, I'm Rodney Jones. I work as a volunteer with the museum. I'm also editor and publisher of the museum newsletter. And the Spitfire is our present jewel in the crown. And we have it now to do the restoration and complete it to flying. And I think really the story of the Spitfire is one we should bear in mind in us then passing it now on to Vintage Wings of Canada, who are bringing to the financial resources, the technical resources, to actually finish it and have it flying. This aircraft was originally built in Castle Bromwich, I believe in 1943, saw some action during World War II, then went to South Africa and ultimately ended up in Waterboom, which is an airstrip in Pretoria, having been discarded and left. And at that time, a gentleman down there brought it up again and brought it to Canada, and now it's passed to us. Now the baton is in our hands, and that baton has passed from many hands through to us. And we've completed the work we can do on it. Now it's our turn to pass the baton over to Vintage Wings. We're just part of a process. It's not owned by us, it's not owned by anybody. The idea is to get it flying, and let's get as much enjoyment out of it as we can while it exists.
My name is Tom Quibell. I worked on the Spitfire project from its inception pretty well until the end of 2008. I've been sort of vilified in a lot of ways as being a disgruntled volunteer. Well, really, I'm not disgruntled in any way. I'm sorry to see the Spitfire leaving the valley. It was a part of the valley, and but a lot of what I said at the time was, I think, taken out of context. I'm not sure how this came about. I was asked on TV, what about the sale of it for $1? And I jokingly said, well, at least I got $2 for it. But this was said in jest, certainly not meaning that it was anything weird or strange about it. The transfer of the aircraft to Vintage Wings, I think, is probably the best thing that could have happened. We knew it had to go somewhere. We could not financially keep this up, and we didn't have the resources really to do it all. Mr. Potter does have the resources, and he's got the personnel, and they were able to finish it. And at least the aircraft will stay in Canada and fly in Canada. And I think we should all be thankful for that.
Okay, my name is Irv Fraser. I'm with the Comox Museum as a volunteer. I work on most of the hardware around here, building stuff for the museum, and definitely in support of the Spitfire, going to Vintage Wings to get it finished while I'm still able to see it.
Hi, my name is Rob Roy and I'm with the Comox Air Force Museum. I've been a volunteer with the museum since 1992 and probably have contributed 15,000 hours worth of labor to the museum in the pursuit of history and heritage and try to preserve our past. I was the one that actually got the Spitfire, and I think going to Michael Potter is the best thing that's going to happen to this thing. Michael Potter is a man who's going to go into his pockets and take out money to help us finish and restore an aircraft to flying condition that should be in the air, to honor the pilots and the ground crew that actually preserved this aircraft, or flew this aircraft in the Second World War.
Hello, I'm Mel Burney. I'm a long-time volunteer at the Comox Air Force Museum and a supporter of the Y2K Spitfire project. The fact that the Y2K Spitfire project has now been taken over by Vintage Wings and Mike Potter, I think it's the greatest thing that could happen to the project. Now we can realize the dream of having this airplane in the air and honoring the people who did fly this airplane, and some of whom are still in the area and would love to see this fly before they're gone.
Hello, my name is Gary Whiffen. I'm a retired veteran of the RCAF/CAF. I spent 25 years serving my country, and I'm now a volunteer at the Air Force Museum. And I believe that the decision made to transfer ownership of the Y2K Spitfire to Vintage Wings was probably the right decision, due to the fact that this way it will ensure that this airplane gets finished and will be able to be enjoyed, especially by those pilots who flew it during World War II and who will probably be gone had it been carried on to completion at this site. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Oxley. I've been a volunteer with the Comox Air Force Museum for over 5 years. One of the projects that's really been an interest is the Y2K Spitfire rebuilding, and that it looked like the project may come to an end. Fortunately, Vintage Wings got interested in the project, so we're looking forward to seeing this plane fly within the next 2 years. And the Spitfire pilots who are still with us should be able to see it and enjoy it as it flies over the Comox Valley.
Yeah, my name is Bill Kuehl. I'm a member of the Air Force Museum Association. I sit on the association board. I can't express my feelings strongly enough just how disappointed I am in the small handful of people causing such a fuss. Just looking at the facts shows that this airplane will not be completed at the current rate of fundraising. The best thing that can be done is for Vintage Wings to take it over and complete the project and to have it fly in the valley, which was the original commitment.
Hi, my name is John Amber. I'm a retired colonel, served 30 years in the Air Force. 3 years of my time in the Air Force was as the wing commander of 19 Wing Comox. Therefore, I know the Y2K project in intimate detail. For the past year, I've been the program manager and volunteer coordinator at the Comox Air Force Museum. So again, totally involved, totally immersed in the Y2K project. Previously, you've heard from the other volunteers. Every one of them has come forward to say they believe in the Y2K project, they believe in it being transferred to Vintage Wings of Canada so they can deliver on the dream, Y2K will fly again. When we look at this airplane, 9 years of work, what have the volunteers produced? They produced a fuselage, an empennage of this classic vintage aircraft. Remarkable amount of effort, and it is clearly a great chunk of a Spitfire. But what needs to be known is there's a lot more that has to be done. This Merlin engine, this big V12 that powered the Spitfire, that has to be refurbished. That is going to cost between $100,000 and probably $150,000. As we look at the fuselage here, we'll notice there's no wings. To build a Spitfire, $750,000. Well, clearly, at $40,000 a year, this project was never going to have enough money here in the Comox Valley to deliver on our promise. It was Robert Service, in his famous poem, The Creation of Sam McGee, that said that a promise made is a debt unpaid. We made a promise that the Y2K Spitfire was going to fly again. And the only way we can deliver on that promise was to partner with Vintage Wings of Canada. All that have criticized that move, not one of them has come up with a legitimate alternative. The only real alternative to Vintage Wings of Canada was for this project to be shut down and for us to never deliver on our promise. And that would have been a slap in the face of the volunteers. That would have been an offense to the veterans. That would have been harm to Vancouver Island and our reputation. Y2K with Vintage Wings of Canada will fly again. Thank you.